Well, welcome. We're going to be talking about internship strategies for business majors today. So that's regardless if you're a freshman, junior, sophomore, you should be able to walk out learning some very valuable things, what the timeline is, how to start that process and researching it, and what you can do even after you land that internship. This is our team. So I'm in the middle on the right there. My hair is a little different, but that's all right. We are a small team. But lucky for you, we do personalized career advising. So you can come to us with virtually any career question or problem you have, not just resumes and cover letters, but interviews, career fair tips, all that fun stuff. Today, we're going to be talking about internships, though. So let's go ahead and get into that. Okay. So a little bit about why internships matter. Why don't you just jump straight into the real world and forget about internships altogether? Well, that's really because internships, they are the real world. So you can build some really great real world experience before graduation in real estate and accounting and finance. And you're going to get a lot more confident about what you want to do with your career path before you commit to it. A statistic for you is that 62% of 2023 seniors reported having got an internship. And that number is actually higher for business students. So you can take away from this, other business students are getting an internship. In fact, most of them are. They're being more competitive. So you should have that goal of getting an internship, maybe even two, before you graduate. Another plus of finding internships is that the average return offer rate to 2024 interns was 62%. That's awesome. So if you're a junior and you have an internship, you have the potential of getting a full-time offer before you graduate if you do really well, if you decide that's where you want to stay. Some more statistics right here is that 81% of experiential learners are very satisfied with their career versus 73% of non-experiential learners. So an experiential learner is someone that has hands-on experience. That could be volunteering, clubs, but also internships. So if you do participate in an internship, you're going to know, or at least have a very clear idea of what you want to do with your career. And maybe you might decide to pivot. Maybe accounting's not your thing. You want to work more in finance. Yeah, that could be really great experiences for you so you can learn what you really do want to do right after you graduate. I wanted to give you this table. So if any of you are searching for internships right now and you don't know where to start, here are some top employers on the left, but we also have interns going into government, military, nonprofits, and even staying local in Blacksburg. And yes, Virginia Tech does have their own internships. A lot of those are called Campus EXP internships, typically in the fall and spring. If you have questions about that, just let us know and we can talk a little bit more. But lots of options here. As far as types of internships, there's a lot, right? There's virtual internships and in-person internships. If you have an option of either doing virtual or in person, we recommend always doing in person if you can, because you can build stronger, more personable connections that way that might help you get that return offer, right? There's also paid and unpaid internships. Paid is ideal. That's what you'd really want to go for. But if you're really interested in an unpaid internship, you do have options. I don't want you to immediately cut it out. There is something called the UTPROSM Internship Funds. If you have questions about it, let us know at the end of this presentation or schedule an appointment with us, where that'll give you funding if you're qualified for an internship related to your major, for internship relating expenses. There are also co-ops. Most of the time you're going to have an internship, but co-ops, they are longer, full-term work experiences relevant to your major, side by side with your degree program. If you can't get an internship, you still have options, right? You can get involved in campus clubs and organizations. You can do projects and volunteering. One thing that I have here down below, you can scan it, it's called Forage. So if you're a sophomore or junior, you've probably already done some class projects you can add to your resume. You can add that in a project section. If it gives you real world skills, yeah, that counts. Forge has a whole database of projects that you can add to your resume in business, in real estate, in accounting, finance, consulting, and EY, Deloitte, KPMG, all sorts of great companies make those projects. So yeah, you can scan it, check it out yourself. It's free. I can go back to it after this presentation as well, if anyone wants to learn more about it. I do want to make this a little bit interactive. So just in the chat, I'm curious, learning, all you know about Geico and what they offer, and knowing the different business majors we have here, pick a major, type it in the chat. Which of these majors do you think interned here at Geico? And you can type it in the chat. We have BIT, marketing, hospitality, BIT, that could be a good one. What about finance? All of them, definitely. That's a good answer. Anyone with management, real estate, financial planning, that's also a good one. Lots of different finances. So that's actually good to hear. You're onto something. The person that interned here was actually human resources management. So that's in management, the management degree. And that's a tip for you. Whenever you're looking for internships, if you're exploring your career, don't put yourself in a box. Don't think because you're in finance, you have to work at a firm or at a bank. You could go in a lot of different places. Disney Cruise Lines need people to manage their accounts and finances, so does healthcare. They need consulting and accounts. So think outside of the box. This one interned in Geico as a human resources management. Throwing another one at you. This is the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Who do you think interned here? Pop it in the chat. Finance, that's another one. Yeah. Another second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 finances. Cybersecurity. Yeah. Those are some pretty great answers. This is another trick question. So the person that interned here was a hospitality and tourism student. So absolutely, you have options depending on just what your interests are, really. This student, for example, worked at hotels and they have experience working maybe at the Inn at Virginia Tech. And they leveraged their experience learning how to do customer service and seat tables and manage reservations, and they were able to get an event coordinator position at the Federal Reserve Bank at New York. That's a real life internship there. So yeah, absolutely. Think outside of the box. This next one, and our last one, this is not a trick question. Thinking of Microsoft, this is a technology consulting intern position. What major, really quickly, do you think interned here? Not a trick question on this one. BIT? BIT again? One more. All right, BIT again. That's a good one because it can absolutely be BIT. But this particular student was in a cybersecurity. So the tip that I'm trying to give you here is that if you're a cyber student looking at this workshop right now, don't think you have to go straight into cybersecurity. In fact, what we're seeing is if you're a cyber student, you're probably going to start somewhere in data and IT and technology and work your way up. So yeah, a lot of options there for you. I want to pause just for a few seconds. If you have an internship, fill this out for us because all of this data that we have it from you, right? So to continue with the workshops and teaching you about internships, we need to collect more data. Go ahead and scan that for us, fill it out, and popping over. Okay, so starting with the internships themselves, right? You have to know the timeline. This is the timeline right here. Take a photo of it, write it down somewhere. This is what you need to follow, not just for internships, but for full-time positions. You cannot start in spring hoping to find an internship or full-time job in the summer. That's way too short notice. So applications typically open the year before, July through October. And between October and December, over 50% of those positions, they're filled. Those applications, they're closed. And that's a range, right? Some have already closed, that last week, in bigger, more popular firms. Some positions are going to be just posted in July and October, but far fewer. So I don't want you to rely on luck and wait until the spring. Let's really submit those applications in the biggest timeline between October and December, and it's October now. If you go on Handshake, and you should, that's your number one platform, you'll see actually a lot of applications are closing in that October range. So go on there, make sure you really look at the timeline and get those applications in before it's too late, right? And the reason why it takes so long is because on average, it takes about 27 days to hear back from a recruiter after you submit an application. So if you don't hear back from them within a week or two, don't panic. That's okay. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it takes up to 2 months. And that's just to hear back. Then you have 2 or 3 interviews. Then you wait for an offer. So yeah, it's a long time frame. Start early that year before. And you don't want to submit just one or two. The business world is competitive. So applying to 5 or just 10 is pretty risky. And I'm telling you that because the statistic is you're going to hear back from less than 20% of the applications you submit. And that's not for an offer. That's just hearing back, possibly getting an interview, right? So 20% of 10 applications, that's one or two. Let's submit 50 or more applications. And that might be really scary and hard to do. But if you work at it, if you set your goal to get an internship by summer, yeah, you gotta be submitting those applications. But it starts with having a quality resume. You can reach out to us. Let's see if we can get that resume up and running so you can start submitting those applications. Okay. Really quickly going to show you this because I'm going to go over the steps of finding internships, and it starts with doing your research. So you're going to want to use this data here. This is called the First Destination Survey. And if you haven't heard about it yet, you're going to hear about it pretty soon by your senior year. This is something you're going to submit, and you're going to tell us what you're going to do when you graduate and you move out of Pamplin. And we compile it all in this amazing chart right here. It shows you what locations people are going to, what employers they're getting hired for. It even tells you an average salary range. But that salary range, I don't want you to treat it like gospel, right? That's more of a conglomeration of all the positions that we have averaged together. So there's no guarantee you're going to get paid a median salary of 77K in BIT. It really just depends on the location, your position title, your experiences, things like that. So start where you're interested in and just go towards that end. So you're going to want to do your research. On here on the right, this is an image of that first destination data. I'm going to give you this data at the end of this presentation in the form of a QR code. You're going to scan it. It's going to take you right here. But I just gave you a little snippet of it for the time being. This is a snippet of finance majors. So how are you going to search for internships if you don't even really know where your career path is taking you, where your interests are? So a good way to start is let's look up this data and let's realistically find out what could I be qualified for in a finance major, for example, right after I graduate. That's where you start. Some of these companies, they might really be of interest to you, right? Maybe you're location bound and you can only look for companies hiring in Reston, Virginia. Maybe you can start there. I also want you to notice at the bottom, there's a finance student that went straight into real estate. So yeah, don't put yourself in a box. You can go a lot of different areas. It may be that you're doing this research and you realize these aren't actually standing out to me. Maybe I want to meet with career services and think about alternative career paths for me. That's normal too. But it starts with doing your research so you can figure out what internship could I get that can help me be more qualified to land a business analyst role at Live Oak Bank. So number two, you want to know your tools. You've probably heard of those top two, and I'm going to go over the third one. So you want to use Handshake most of all. You're a student, and Handshake is your go-to platform for student-centered part-time jobs, Virginia Tech jobs, and we mentioned earlier that Virginia Tech has their own internships. So if you want to stay local, absolutely. But you can also find internships elsewhere, outside of Virginia, elsewhere in the Virginia area. So yeah, use Handshake. And I'm going to show you how you can use it properly right after this. You should be also using LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is great for finding jobs and internships. There's a search tool. You can go on LinkedIn, and if you type in the position title plus the industry or the company, such as financial analyst in First Bank, You can find a lot of more opportunities there that match that search. But you also just want to stay connected with alumni and companies so that all of these internships and jobs, they're going to find you and they're going to be posted on your feed. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Career Shift, that's free to you as a Virginia Tech student. Otherwise, you'd have to pay for it. So you might as well take advantage of it. It's free with the code VT, and you'd sign up with your VT email. And you would use that if you've exhausted your options in Handshake and you are really worried about that 20% statistic. You know, you're only going to hear back from 20% or less on average of the applications you submit. And you just really want to get some good quality applications out there. Career Shift will expand those options. It's a database. It'll search LinkedIn, Indeed, job boards all at once in a single search. And it's also great for discovering contacts. So starting with Handshake, there's a wrong way to use all of these tools. The wrong way to use it is just to use the search function, and that's it. But if you really want to take full advantage of all of these tools, you have to also know what else they do. So right here, I have filters. Say you're a freshman and most of the internships are for juniors and seniors. There's still options out there for you. You just might have to work a little harder. See if you can filter by your school year, your graduation rates. Handshake should have that on file already. And see if you can just search up general internships, do some research, see what you can apply to. Another thing you can do and should do is set up job alerts. So I made a little yellow circle for the job alerts button. Say you're in accounting, I just put accounting internship at the top, and it popped up this get alerts for jobs like this button. Click it, and next time it posts an internship in accounting, it'll email you instead of you having to look up Handshake, every day. Keep in mind though, most internships, they're already posted, right? So this might be something you set up now, just in case when something does pop up. But most of the applications you gotta submit pretty much now or pretty much soon. Something else in Handshake. At the bottom, it says Johnson & Johnson. So if you're interested in a specific company, yeah, go to the employers, find a company you're interested in, PwC, for example, and follow them. There's a follow button on that bottom, right? And they're probably going to have some really great information for you. Johnson & Johnson is really active on Handshake, and they're making these reels and really great informational videos on what it's like to work at their company. So that can give you a really good insights on working with them there. But on the right-hand side, you can also just connect with people involved in Johnson & Johnson. Don't underestimate that. Learning who works there, making connections, maybe connecting with these people on LinkedIn, that can get you a really good depth or insight into that company and maybe make some referrals or good connections moving forward. This one's Career Shifts. So like we mentioned, Career Shift is a database and it is free with your VT email. And you would search, say, Georgia and put in a certain zip code. I would put in maybe marketing intern. That's the example I gave here. And it gave me dozens of more options. And it searched multiple job platforms at once. Notice the go to job listing button. If I clicked that, it would actually redirect me to where it found the job, maybe LinkedIn. And then you would have to create an account on that website and create an application. Instead, what might be easier actually is to use this as a search tool. I have a couple marketing internships here that popped up, but instead of going to the job listing on LinkedIn, maybe I'll just say, hey, Trina Legacy posted this marketing internship. I'm going to go directly on their website and I'm going to apply for that marketing internship there. That's the best way to use Career Shift as a platform. But you can also look for company contacts. So again, just like Handshake, if you're interested in a certain company, you can dive deeper into the jobs they have available. I pulled up PwC, and that would be in the companies tab. You could search for company contacts on that left bubble, but on the right bubble, you can click on it and it'll tell you all the posted jobs at PwC, saving you quite a bit of time. This is LinkedIn. So we talked a little bit about searching on LinkedIn, right? You're going to put the position name and the industry. Maybe you're looking for Disney Cruise Lines, maybe healthcare. Maybe you only want to work at Heffernan Insurance Brokers. Yeah, look that up. Start your search. But LinkedIn's also good because it's kind of similar to Instagram, right? You have a certain feed that pops up every day. You want to be connected with employers so that your feed is mostly filled with internships and jobs coming in. But of course, connecting with alumni is also very valuable too. But if you connect with employers the right way, internships will find you instead of the other way around. But certainly use these other job platforms to search and put your best foot forward there. You can also use something called the People tab, right? Not just using the search, but also know what else these filters can give you. If you search at the People tab at, say, let's go back at Heffernan Insurance Brokers, and you can find out where they studied. You can find Virginia Tech there in the Pamplin College of Business and automatically be able to find people that graduated in the Pamplin College of Business with your major, possibly, that work at Heffernan Insurance Brokers and instantly have such a great connection there. You can reach out to them, you can message them. I do recommend sending personalized messages, but probably send messages to those active on LinkedIn so you're more likely to get that response. All right. So moving forward to networking. You're going to want to introduce yourself, right? You have to introduce yourself clearly. Why are you even interested in the company beforehand? So this might be an in-person networking event, a virtual networking event. It could be a career fair. You always want to go in with a game plan. Do your research. Who are you even talking to in the first place? So if you go to Business Horizons and you don't write down who you talk to, we're not actually allowed to give you their personal information. You have to write it down and take notes at that career fair, at that networking event, so that you can follow up with them afterwards, right? You want to also prepare specific questions. So if you're at a career fair, there's a long line behind you. You're probably only going to have room and time to ask one or two questions. Don't waste one of those questions on talking about the weather, right? Instead, ask, hey, I saw you posted an internship. Can you tell me more about that? And suddenly, those questions become a lot more helpful to you as you're looking into different opportunities. Your goal at networking events isn't just to get information, but it's also to make sure they remember you. And that's hard to do because there's a sea full of people. So the right way to do that is to remember them, first of all, get their business cards, but also do a little exchange. You're gonna share your resume with them. So probably a couple dozen at least copies of your resume you're gonna bring to career fairs and just hand them out to companies that you're interested in. So they're gonna remember you and you're gonna remember them, collect their business cards so that you can do step 4, connect on LinkedIn, send that personalized message, following up with them, and then later meeting with them again at a career fair or a networking event. That's what puts you to the top of the application pool for internships. So these are really great tips to follow. All right. So you have the internship, right? You started early, way back in October, July, and you have interviews, you have offers, and you're starting June 1st. It isn't in there, right? You don't just want to show up in a jeans and a t-shirt and think securing an internship was the final step. It's actually the beginning. You want to arrive early, dress professionally, and see if you can spend time getting to know your team and your supervisor. That's perfectly fine. You want to get to know them. And you want to take good notes on what you're doing as well, because as I'll show you in the next slide, you're going to make a killer resume based off of what you're learning in that internship. You want to continue to build momentum, right? So don't just clock in, sit at the desk, and clock out. Ask questions. Go into this internship trying to learn as much as you possibly can, but do it humbly. You're an intern, you don't know a whole lot, right? So you probably can't suggest a ton of improvements, but you can ask good questions and you can seek feedback and you can document what you're doing and what you're learning. That shows employers that you're interested in the internship in the company and you're interested in moving forward. You can even volunteer for any existing challenges. Maybe there's a task. You could volunteer for that. The answer might be no if it's above your pay grade, but that initiative, that could only help you as long as you do it humbly with the desire to learn. And what you can also do is we talked about that percentage for securing a full-time offer. That is possible. If you're a junior, you're doing very well in your internship, you might get that full-time offer, a return offer for that next year before you even graduate. And to do that, I would actually just tell them. Tell them you're interested in the company and that you're interested in a return offer. Otherwise, how would they know, right? It's not unprofessional to ask, far from it. It actually shows an employer that you love the company, you want to stay there. That makes them happy. So express interest. You could say, hey, I really loved working here. And I'm wondering if there's any opportunities to stay here after my internship. That's a great way to phrase it. Maintain relationships after your internship ends. That's a good one too. It's not open and close internship. These people that you're going to be working with, business can be such a big field and such a small field at the same time. You're going to be working with the same people at some point in your life. Some of your teammates might be your future supervisors. So, yeah, connect with them, stay in touch, see what they're doing on LinkedIn from time to time. You never know. Those relationships matter. The first step in getting an internship is you have to have a good resume, right? So I'm going to give you a tip right now. If you're submitting 50 applications and you're not hearing back at all, that might be a problem with your resume. Let's have it reviewed by the Pamplin Career Services team and see if there's something we can strengthen on that end. Maybe we could add a project section using Forage. Maybe we could really tweak your work experiences so that it's stronger for finance or for accounting. On the other hand, say you're getting a lot of interviews, but you haven't gotten a single offer. That's probably an interview problem. I mean, granted, business is a competitive field, but it might be due to, hey, maybe let's strengthen your interviewing skills because you could always improve there, right? Pamplin College of Business does mock interviews, either professional ones or just talking some common questions over. So maybe we can help you ace that next interview. On the right, we have a resume template. We have those online. So that's very nicely formatted already. You don't have to struggle with your formatting. You can download it if you don't have a working one already. And it already has your sections figured out for you. I'm going ahead and putting an example of how an internship looks on a resume. It looks great, right? You want to have a lot of different bullet points and you want to make sure your internship is worded really strong on your resume. Don't put vague bullet points like provided customer service, shredded documents. Go more in depth. That's why you should really be thinking about what you're doing in your internships so you can properly articulate it on your resume and in future interviews too. So this is a little bit of what it might look like. You can take a photo of it if you want. I don't mind. Okay. So some key takeaways before we go into questions. We'll have some questions in the chat. Do your research. We talked about the first destination data and use that. This next slide has that for you. You can look into it and do some research on, hey, what can I do with my major? But not just that, the first destination data is information on what entry-level jobs straight after graduation my classmates are getting. So yeah, don't underestimate that. Look it up and see what you can find. And you can also find where people have gone in the past. Do you like that? Do you not like that? Do you want to talk with career services about your career options and your interests? The second thing you want to do is practice your tools, practice your filters, see if you can get on CareerShift if you haven't already. Connect with professionals on LinkedIn so you can build your feed and build your network. And start really. Don't rely on luck by waiting until the spring. Yes, there will be a few available in the spring, but not many. I don't want you to get stuck with either not finding an internship or finding an internship, but it not being something that's very helpful to you. So start now. It's October, and a lot of internships have closed last week. Some are closing this week. So yeah, let's get on it. This is the data that I promised you. So I'm going to leave this up. The first destination data is in the middle. The book and appointment QR code, that's on Navigate. You can also look at that on the left. And if you haven't checked in already, do so with the QR code on the right. Lots of QR codes, but I'll leave it there. Go ahead and type any questions in and I'll be free to answer them. One question is, how would you suggest networking with people in the company you aim to join? Yeah, so if you're looking at PwC, for example, you want to start with submitting an application. So if you're interested in an internship, submit an application for that and get your name out there. And then they're going to reach out to you. It's hopefully will be for an interview, but it might possibly be, hey, we've decided to go another way. Either way, that's a good networking opportunity because then you're going to learn their name. Go on LinkedIn, connect with them on LinkedIn and stay in touch. Maybe like some of their posts, see what they're doing, send a message to them. If it's a denial, you can say, hey, can I receive feedback on my application? I hope to stay in touch and apply another year. If it's for an interview, that's just more opportunities for you to get a leg up and put your name to the top of that application pool. If you send them personalized messages, they might be more willing to take a second look at you and your resume during those interviews. So definitely don't underestimate the value of getting to know these people. What advice do you have for freshmen looking for an internship and wanting to build a resume, but know most companies won't hire first-year students? You're graduating a year early. Yeah. So certainly if you're graduating a year early, you want to get just a lot of experience off the bat. That doesn't have to be an internship. We talked about different ways. That could be part-time jobs. That could be projects using Forage that we talked about earlier. But certainly for internships, there are still opportunities for you. You just have to search probably a little harder. You would go on Handshake and start looking for jobs and internships that match your major and degree path. And you're still confused and not able to find many, you can reach out to us, schedule an appointment, and we can go on Handshake and just do some additional searches with you and see if we can grab some really good ones for you there. As far as building a resume, your first year resume isn't going to look awesome. It's not going to be super detailed, but what you can do is take good count of your class projects and make it look nice and detailed. Another thing you can do is going back to this resume is you want to make sure your bullet points are detailed. If you have a cashier position and all you're putting is provided customer service, you're doing yourself a disservice. You want to say exactly what you did. You answered phone calls. You opened and closed the store, right? All these things, not just customer service. That's how to make your resume strong. So give like 4 bullet points. Definitely no more than 5. Get some good leadership and clubs and involvement on your resume. That goes a long way. But certainly meet with us if you want to talk more about it in depth. I'm going to hang out for another couple minutes, but feel free to head out. If you have any questions, go ahead and stay behind. Thank you.